What's that video with Lady Gaga when she's like, bus, another club, another club? Yeah, that's me with Tenebrae. As soon as that third act comes in, twist, another twist, another twist, another twist. Tenebrae is a 1982 Italian Giallo written and directed by one of cinema's most visionary directors, Dario Argento, starring Anthony Franciosa, Daria Nicolodi, and wait for it, John Mother Saxon. Yup, baby daddy, even though he is a bastard in this movie. If you are part of the family, you know we love John Saxon here. Okay, we do. Rest in peace. Watch my Elm Street video or my Black Christmas video for more details. I briefly want to give some love to these cool guys right here with impeccable taste. Mr. Patrick and Mr. Adam both have mentioned this film in my comment section on multiple occasions. Adam specifically he's been on my ass about talking about this film, and I think it's time. For the record, yes, I have seen this movie before, but I've only seen it one time, and it was a few years ago. I don't believe that this film is that well known, but we're gonna take a risk here. I've honestly been debating about picking at least one obscure film a month. Just to keep things a little interesting, but I don't know, we'll see. Tenebrae is the in-universe name of the book from a critically acclaimed American author named Peter Neal, who's visiting Rome on a book tour, quickly becoming the center of a string of killings, all resembling those inside his novel. There's sleek modern architecture, fluid camera work, and it's just a damn good blood-soaked giallo. Though I wouldn't call it necessarily a whodunit, I would say it's a meditation on voyeurism, violence, and the razor-thin line between creator and creation. So join me, won't you, as we go back to 1980s Italy and see what the hell all this perversion is about. The film opens in front of a fireplace where an off-screen man in black gloves opens Tenebrae by Peter Neal, reading a passage that goes as follows. The impulse had become irresistible. There was only one answer to the fury that tortured him, and so he committed his first act of the murder. He had broken the deepest taboo and found not guilt, not anxiety or fear, but freedom. Every human obstacle, every humiliation which stood in his way could be swept aside by his simple act of annihilation. Murder. The book is thrown in the fire after our title card, and we get the theme of the film. Truly one of the best original tracks I've ever heard made for a film. It's so good. We see our protagonist and author of Tenebrae himself, Peter Neal. He biked all the way to the airport right behind his chauffeur, who was carrying his bag so he could hop on flight 401 to Rome. Peter can hear his name being called on the intercom to come to the information desk, where one of the workers tell him there's a call summoning him. We can't hear the other end, and all the dialogue we get from him is a girl named Jane, who he apparently hasn't called in 2 months. Jane is on his ass. Peter's telling her to calm down, like, look, little girl, I'm gonna hang up on you. Yeah, I'll call you tomorrow. Then he hangs up, and homeboy left his bag by the desk and can't find it. That's when we see a mysterious woman with a black scarf around her head, who's been eyeing his bag during his phone call. Not gonna lie, he kinda deserves this for leaving his bag unattended. Like, you're technically a public figure too, on top of that. The woman in the scarf passes a payphone, tapping on the glass, and guess who steps out? Jane. Peter's bag actually wasn't stolen though. It was just moved to another side of the desk. Jane is dressed like she's about to go to her sugar daddy's funeral as she watches her best-selling author fly to Rome, smirking. We meet a woman named Elsa who is doing some light shopping, looking for something to apply a 5-finger discount on, and she locks eyes on the Tenebrae books. Her shoplifting skills are so bad, like, stop looking around. Like, she's literally just like, After she slips a copy in her bag, a man snatches her up and the book falls out. When he asks for a receipt, she's like, "I was on the way to the cash register, daddy, chill." And we find out she has 12 shoplifting convictions. I mean, at that point, just find a sugar dad, right? If you don't want to work, you know? No judgment. So to pay her debt, Elsa tries to make a deal. She offers up her address, and when Grandpa is done working, he can come see her.
Come on, give me a break. You're not gay, are you?
Doing all this for a book is crazy. She gives the man her Addy, and he puts the book back in her bag. After hitching a ride from a motorist, the diva's walking home minding her own when this homeless man snatches her up from behind a fence demanding a kiss. Oh my god. The guy busts through the fence door, she knees him in the balls, and takes off running. He's screaming, "I'll kill you!" She is struggling to get inside the gate. I'm scared. But she gets in and she slams his hand in, rushing in her crib. Look at her when she gets inside. She's like, what a day. Stole a book, got assaulted. It's hard out here for a pimp. After changing her outfit, Elsa hears a noise and runs to the phone. But the line seems not to be working. She starts stumbling back when out of nowhere, someone in black gloves snatches her around the corner and puts a blade up to her neck, aggressively ripping pages out of the Tenebrae book, stuffing it in her mouth, whispering in a creepy voice, "Time to die." They shove like 8 pages in her mouth and gives her one last slice across the throat before taking a few photographs. And that's when we meet the man we came here for, Mr. John Saxon, who plays Bulmer, Peter's agent. We also meet a reporter named Tilda. A bunch of the press were waiting for Mr. Neal to touch down because, he in demand. Tenebrae has been #1 for 12 ongoing weeks. Where's your career? The killer slips a note with Peter's name on it under a door, and we cut to a room where Peter's being interviewed about his writing process. Little Petey has written 3 books in a row and has been working non-stop for 2 years.
Tenebrae is a sexist novel. Why do you despise women so much?
Y'all was just kissing up in the airport. Like, this came out of nowhere. But get on the record, catch 'em in the heat of the moment. Women as victims, ciphers, and your male heroes with all their hairy macho bullshit. How can you say this? Peter is like, "Tilda, what's the matter with you, sis? You've known me for 10 years. But we ain't talking about this is not personal. We talking about your work." She asks if he writes to a fixed pattern or did his publishers just tell him that sex sells copies. Bulmer steps in, suggesting they set up an interview between the two of them at another time, since Peter just got off the plane, give him time to marinate.
Want your balls because they haven't got their own.
Oh, this guy. Peter asks Bulmer about a tall, thin man he saw in the corner who never said a word, and Bulmer tells him that's Cristiano Berti, a book reviewer for Channel 1 TV, a big fan of his, and they have a show with him on Thursday. We meet Secretary Anne and a young kid named Gianni. Gianni will someday be an agent at the Rome office, but in the meantime, he's gonna look after Peter during his stay here. Peter tells Anne he brought her a present, and when he goes in the trunk to retrieve his bag and get it, they're all shocked to see it's been tampered with. Black liquid all over his clothes, watch smashed, and everything. When they all get in Peter's room, there's a man inside named Captain Germani of the Rome Homicide Squad, and the woman behind him is his partner, Inspector Altieri. Captain Crunch apologizes for coming in before him, but the door was open. He lets Peter know a veteran shoplifter was sliced 5 hours ago and asks if he knew her. But this is Peter's first time in Rome. Don't be silly. What the hell? What this got to do with me? We learn Elsa died from 4 deep wounds. Throat, chest, suffocation, and her mouth was stuffed with pages from Tenebrae. Captain's about to go down a string of questions when Peter abruptly stops him like, let me ask you something, nephew. If someone is banged with a Smith & Wesson revolver, do you go and interview the president of Smith & Wesson? Well, Captain Crunch says that he's read all Peter's books except Tenebrae, which he started last night. You see, the book deals with a murder committed with an old-fashioned razor, and this girl too was killed with the razor, and Peter's book pages stuffed in her mouth. But wait, there's more. They found an envelope from the killer with Peter's name on it. The paper has clips of words stitched together reading a passage from his book. Captain Crunch tells Peter he respects him and he wants to work with him, requesting to keep the letter and warns him that there will likely be more. Captain then gives over his card telling P to keep him updated. And that's when the phone rings. Anne answers, but there's no response. Gianni offers to hit the store and replace whatever items were messed up in his bag. So Anne takes him away saying she'll make him a list. And that's when the phone rings Again, only this time, it's the killer who whispers,
"Not anxiety or fear, but freedom. You wrote those words, page 46. Freedom to strike again."
Peter snaps at Captain Crunch, trying to keep the killer on the line.
"You told me how, Peter Neal. You and me together. We've just begun. Who's up there with you? I can see a woman. Is that your girlfriend? Maybe she should be next. But I've got other plans. You'll like them. Just wait and see."
Peter's like, LOL, maybe we can meet, homie, and I can explain about the books. Just as Captain Crunch takes out his gun to head downstairs.
"We will meet soon, Neal. You can count on it."
As soon as Peter brings up Elsa, the stalker is like,
"How did you know about her? Who's with you?"
both the captain and Altieri come outside, gun hot and ready, but it's crickets.
Got away, huh?
I couldn't get him.
I should have a tough male assistant who runs fast.
You'd hate it. You'd have nothing to bitch about.
I am 2 seconds away from smacking every male character in the mouth. We see the shadow of the whispering stalker who is tweaking out. Like, take your meds, nephew. Look, your pills are right there. Just throw it back and switch it down. I'm not seeing him taking. I'm just seeing you just drinking water. Take the pills. He starts having flashbacks of this strange memory of an island girl who is luring these boys by the beach. And I guess this fourth guy who comes up is supposed to represent the stalker, and perhaps he was in love with this girl who was being a little fast, as they say. So he smacks her in the face and runs off. But the 3 men tackle him to the ground, pin him down, and the woman spits in his face, kicks him 10 times, and sticks the heel of her shoe in his mouth. We go to this lounge where this woman in blue, Marion, is hanging with Tilda. She gets up to flirt with a man by the arcade games before returning to the table, where Tilda starts calling the guy vulgar and cheap. Me so confused right now.
I love you, Tilda, but no jealous scenes. You promised. Okay.
Okay, never mind. Marion says this dude doesn't have a place, so she's gonna take him back to theirs. No the f you not. And Tilda's like, okay, no ties, no strings, but you don't have to rub it in my face.
Not your face, honey. Not tonight.
Oh, y'all nasty. She tells Tilda to just give her an hour before. Bruh, what the hell was that? After Peter and Anne have dinner, he begs her to have a nightcat with him, and she agrees, but only one. After an hour, Tilda comes home and Marion starts bothering her, playing with my girl's emotions. She asks if Tilda's coming up, and Tilda Swinton calls her a cheap little hooker and to go back to her pimp. So Marion is like, fine, you want to know how it was? It was terrific. He made you look pathetic when we made love. Tilda Swinton grabs a pair of scissors, looking upstairs saying, one day. Wind chimes clatter as the movie's theme starts playing, and Tilda looks out the window. After a 2-minute sweep across the building, we see the stalker use a tool to clip the blinds and get inside. Tilda screams at Marion to turn down the music when we hear the stalker's voice whispering, "Pervert! Filthy, slimy pervert!" Tilda takes off her shirt, trying to slip into a new one, when the killer rolls up behind her, flipping out his switchblade, tearing a hole, and slicing her up in one of the film's most famous shots. Marion turns off the music, slowly going downstairs, and when she witnesses Tilda's body on the ground, she immediately turns screaming, but not fast enough because the killer slices her back and she falls on the ground. She tries to sit up, but the killer slices her throat and Marion falls back, hitting her head on glass. Can't forget to take a pic for Snapchat. Peter calls the front desk because his hot water isn't working, and the front desk man's daughter, Maria, comes up asking for 5,000 lire. So as a favor, Papa makes his daughter go to room 22 and turn on Peter's hot water. After Maria finds the switch, she tells Peter that she read his book Out of Dawn and calls it terrific. Anne visits right after Maria leaves, and not too later after that, the killer leaves Peter another letter, which he finds rushing out the apartment, going downstairs. And this second message reads, "Sic transit gloria lesbi, so passes the glory of Lesbos." Lesbos? Oh, that's right. Yeah. At Studio One, Peter briefly meets the interviewer, Cristiano Berti, who starts asking him brief, in-depth, personal pre-questions. He pulls out his copy of Tenebrae, stating the novel is about human perversion and its effects on society, so he'd like to know how Peter sees the effects of deviant behavior on our lives. And Peter is like, first of all, Skinny Minnie, it's not just about that. But the two victims are deviants, Cristiano replies.
Who says they're deviants? Well, one is gay, but so what? I mean, he's portrayed as perfectly happy.
Cristiano clarifies how the killer's motivation is to eliminate what he calls corruption. And Peter's like, the killer is insane, and what he means by that is the only aberrant behavior. Oh, what is aberrant behavior? Cristiano jumps. You see, I was brought up by a very strict Catholic, but I believe in abortion and divorce, so that makes me a parent from a strictly Catholic standpoint. Once again, Peter is like, Slim, I thought this was an afternoon show. He's trying not to get too deep into this. And one of the PAs tells the gents it's time to start the show. Bulmer directs the captain and Altieri outside after they show up to the studio, saying that he's very sensitive and an interview is a very delicate thing, so I don't want my moneymaker to be disturbed, you dig me? There's a, still being so misogynistic, there is a small moment where they're walking and Inspector Altieri is saying how she didn't expect, she's fangirling over the book reporter, Cristiano, and she's saying how she didn't expect him to be so tiny in person, and Bulmer's like, yeah, anyways, like, shut up, woman. I'm going to punch the shit out of him. Bulmer asks Captain Crunch if there's anything he can do, because Peter's got hell of a schedule. He's starting to work on his new book, etc. Mind you, Captain Crunch doesn't even know who this Buster is, and after Bulmer tells him that he's his agent, Captain Crunch is like, oh, I see, so you get 10% of this conversation with the police department. Get him. Careful now, Bulmer says. I have feelings just like a real human being. Later on, Peter is questioned if this killer is somebody he knows. He's saying he wish he had never written that book, and Maria pops up at the door with a gift from Bulmer, a typewriter. But too late, Gianni and Anne already got him one. Nobody wants your funky sexist typewriter. Gianni leaves with Maria, and that's when Peter and Anne see what looks like Jane's car cruising down the road. Not this girl done followed him to Rome. Anne says Jane never strays 10 miles from her shrink, so she dials her number and it goes straight to voicemail. Oh lord. After looking through their stalker files inside a dingy little basement lair, the killer turns out the light because we gotta save the electric bill, but the key is left in the door. And this motherfucker clearly got money because they have this big ass house over top of the lair, and Joe drives all the way to the block to pick up a girl named Juliana who is a streetwalker. But then he realizes that he forgot his key. For whatever reason, Gianni and Maria got to arguing. She hops off his bike and then he immediately leaves her ass in the middle of nowhere. Oh my god. Maria's walking down the street when a Rottweiler starts barking at her, so she starts kicking the gate and hitting him with a stick. And you know, you should have just left it alone, because you know what the dog does. This Joker hops the fence. This dog is charging, biting her arm, her leg. She swipes it with a stick of wood, running and finding another fence. But little Roddy said, oh, okay, distancing himself from the fence, then sprints and climbs it. That is a smart ass dog. Child, I would have been screaming like Gordy and Stand By Me. Maria finds herself in this massive backyard asking for help. There's a big pool. Wait a minute. Oh, she is at the killer's lair, y'all. But then this goddamn dog comes back to bite, just tearing her ass up. But she eventually gets inside, turning on the light and calling for help. The Rottweiler is not letting up, still trying to climb the windows of the base. Let it go. It's not that deep. Maria sees pics of the killer's victims and news articles about their deeds. You need to get out of there. She starts shoving pictures and notes in her skirt, looking for an exit besides the door that she came in, and she discovers a doorway that leads inside the house. As I said, whoever this killer is got shmoney, because this is nice. Oh shit. Maria's like, oh my god, the door was open and I was attacked by a dog. Please help me.
Spy. That little spy.
Maria runs out the sliding door, slamming the killer's hand in, which makes him drop his blade in the water, and he grabs a piece of wood. I mean, sure, let's hit her with a wooden stick, chasing her around the yard, and of course she trips. And what pisses me off more is she starts taking the paper out of her skirt and throwing it at him.
girl.
Turns out the piece of wood in this killer's hand is actually an axe, which they swing into Maria's stomach numerous times. Game over. The next morning, a man is mowing the lawn when he stumbles across pieces of paper scattered about and finds her body. Captain Crunch unveils yet another letter from our stalker that reads, "I grieve for this child. Her death was the only way I could be free to go on. I will eliminate those who disgust me, the human perverts, and soon now, the corrupted himself." Captain tells Peter to stay in his apartment as much as possible since this latest note is pretty much a threat, then goes on saying he finished Tenebrae and guessed who the killer was on page 30. That night, Peter's got Anne looking through address books trying to find crazy people.
Because I have corrupted him, he says.
Or she says.
She, right.
Then Peter remembers the interview by Cristiano Berti, the TV critic, who called Tenebrae human perversion and how he was weird about it. They all start putting the pieces together and how Cristiano lives in Aower, and that's exactly where Maria's body was found. So this guy has to be the killer, right? Right? This black-gloved creep's got the whole city shaking with their notes, saying how the next victim is going to be what they refer to as the Great Corrupter, and all kinds of politicians and businessmen are expected to leave the city. When Anne leaves the crib, she sees Jane across the road get in her car and speed off, so she tries rushing back inside to call her phone and, again, it goes to voicemail. You're not tripping, that's really Jane, let's stop wasting time. Peter and Gianni sneak onto what they believe to be Cristiano's property, and we see the killer burning all the maps, photographs, and papers. The house lights flash on, and it just so turns out this person is actually Cristiano. Gianni goes around the back to get a closer look, but the house lights cut off, and the killer bum rushes Cristiano saying, "Yes, it was me. I killed them," and buries an axe into his head, then throws a stone piece, shattering glass. When Gianni finds Peter, he's on the ground with a bloody rock that seemingly smashed his head, and the boys go back to the car, and Peter starts asking for details, but Gianni could barely see Cristiano except the axe. Anne tries telling Peter to update Captain Crunch, but he instead asks her to stay the night to keep him company. Meanwhile, poor Gianni is driving home, and the screen is flashing back to he's too young to be seen, he's traumatized. Okay? Anne points out how her and Peter had been working together 6 years and never spent one night together. But Peter says 4 of those 6 years, they would have had Jane around to disapprove. Then he joins her on the couch and they start sucking face. And yet there is nothing awkward or first-timey about this, so I am inclined to believe that this is who he was, going back and forth with Jane on. This is who he was cheating on. We get another short memory from this sick killer who's spying on the girl from the island, whom he kills with a knife. The next morning, Anne wakes up alone like Amy Winehouse. Meanwhile, Peter is visiting his sexist agent, who he tells he's thinking of leaving Rome for a couple of weeks, and maybe going to Paris or something. Bulmer is about to have a bitch fit because they're 2 days from making a deal, begging his moneymaker to stay until Friday, and Peter is like, "No bitch, my life is in danger." Bulmer says he'll book him a suite at the Hotel Florio in the hills and tell everyone he's gone to New York City, and to just stay low until the publishers and financiers come back. Only he and Peter will know where he is. But Peter doesn't answer this, he just says, "I'll call you later." That's when Bulmer gets up, opening a secret door where Jane comes through, and they start making what the is going on here? She starts saying how she feels sleazy, hearing her Buki's voice on the other side of the door, wondering if he knows about her and Bulmer. Before she leaves, Bulmer asks if he can see her for lunch today, and they agree on 1 o'clock. Peter's riding with Gianni, who is still having flashes of the other night, and bro even causes an accident at an intersection driving off. So Peter is like, yeah, no, and he gets out telling him that he'll walk and Gianni can drive. Peter's talking with Captain Crunch at Cristiano's place, and the captain finds a file on the table full of information about Peter. And when Captain Crunchy asks Peter what happened to his head, he's like, I was just beating up my head on this case. No, and tell him the truth. Peter quotes a Conan Doyle book saying, "When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth." There's something missing in the puzzle that he can't figure out, and he notions that the impossible in this case is that the chain of killings doesn't make sense. The improbable in this case, again, like the book, is almost certainly weird, unbelievable, but possible truth is always possible. The captain asks if he's going to leave town today, and Peter says yes, so captain is like, all right, well, make sure you let me know where you at, nephew. Jane sees a package with her name on it at the crib she's currently staying at, and when she opens it, it's the same red shoes that the island girl was wearing. At the restaurant, Bulmer can't find Jane, so he starts walking, and that's when we get a POV from the killer. And we know it's the hashtag killer because we can see those 2 white pills after they go to the bar and get a glass of water. Bulmer sits down on a bench, people watching, and after a few minutes go by, he stands up to leave, figuring that Jane blew him off. And then bro gets stabbed in broad daylight. Very deserving. Jane comes stumping in her new red tops, walking up to this body by the crowd, and immediately rushes off. Gianni comes to Peter's room just as Pete's about to leave town, allegedly. What he tells everyone is he's gonna go back home and try to figure out a piece of the puzzle. Then he apologizes that Gianni had to get caught up in everything. And that night, Gianni returns back to Cristiano's house, and as he's walking up his backyard, we see the killer take his car keys. Gianni has more flashbacks, but in this recent one, we watch Cristiano say out of his mouth, "I killed them all." So, I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone. If Cristiano was the main killer, then who killed Cristiano? It's now pouring rain as Gianni runs back to his car, but he can't find the key. I think we know where this is going. As you suspect, the killer wraps a thin black rope around his neck and strangles him. Jane calls the apartment and says she wanted to speak with Peter, but Anne tells her that he left for Italy. So Mary Jane Blige begins stumbling her words, saying she feels like there's 2 people in her, and sometimes the other one just takes over. She's like, "Help me, please, don't let me kill myself." Anne asks for the Addy so she can come around and even hangs up before Jane is finished talking. Had she stayed on the line, Anne would have heard Jane's final words, which were, "I just want to explain everything I've done." Inspector Altieri tells Captain Crunch there's a lady who came by the station who was the housekeeper at the place that Bulmer rented. She's Filipina and has a lot of interesting things to say about him, like how Bulmer had a regular girlfriend, and Captain only tells her to continue questioning her because he has to leave because of another killing. Jane is pacing around her apartment with the gun in her hands and sits down at the table when hearing a clattering at the door. So she starts calling for Anne, but then her window slams open. So then she sits down and positions her gun. Like, are you not gonna close the window? Whoever the killer is chopped off this woman's hand, buried the axe into her back. This is the most blood we have seen up until this point. And they finish her off after swiping her a few more times in the chest. We go back to the second flashback when the killer stabbed the island girl, and we see that that was the moment they took her red heels. So anyway, Anne finally arrives. I hope she got a weapon. Oh my God. I am confused right now. Wait a damn minute. Peter is now on the ground saying Anne's name in fear. He can't believe he killed her. And Captain Crunch comes in with his gun pointed. And Peter's like, I didn't know. I didn't know it was her. What is happening right now?
What the hell is?
That's the girl, the shorty from I don't know. I don't know who that is. Wait, oh my god, this is Inspector Altieri. This is Captain Crunch assistant. Peter crawls in the corner as the captain takes Jane's gun, quoting the Conan quote about when you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. He tells Peter that Bulmer's maid told the inspector he was having an affair with his fiance. And I swear this was the first time that they referred to Jane as Peter's fiance. I thought this was just an on and off girlfriend. Like, I thought she was just fine shit. Like, Captain Crunch says he doesn't know if he should feel sorry for Peter or hate him. And Peter's like, no, I didn't kill the other woman. But Crunch says, I know that would have been impossible. Impossible. Peter starts cackling and says when he realized Cristiano was the killer, which didn't take him long to realize, the rest was like writing a book. Captain Crunch is like, oh, I see. It's all coming. Perfect revenge, right? Right? The Razor Killer is dead, but you wanted him to live on long enough to be blamed for the murder of your fiance and her lover, the two people you hated the most. Oh, you're going to jail. Yeah, you're going to jail. Peter putting his head up against the wall is taking me out like a damn child. Captain is like, get your ass up, Rosa Parks. You know the routine. Taking out his kinky cuffs. This captain is definitely not good at his job because he sat here watching Peter feel all over his chest and his pockets, yet he did nothing. And before we know it, this Joker takes out a razor and he slits his throat. Anne and Captain Crunch run to his car. He calls for his colleagues on the radio, and Baby is in the backseat crying. She's like, it's not possible. Mr. Crunch, he couldn't believe it either. But that was until he got a telex from the Interpol this evening, and he discovered that when Peter was a teenager in Rhode Island, a girl he knew was brutally unalived, and someone accused him. But there wasn't any real evidence, and it was never brought to trial. But if it was Peter, then he committed an act which haunted his life and twisted his mind forever. It was in his last book. He quotes, now he realizes that any obstacle or humiliation standing in his way could be swept aside by a simple act of annihilation. Murder. Anne is in the back seat and she's like, no. Then Captain says the magic line in every horror film.
Calm down, it's all over now.
I wish we would stop saying that. Something hits him though, before he tells Anne to stay in the car and wait for him, before getting out and heading back inside where... Of course. Captain kneels down, sticking his finger in the blood. And after picking up the blade, he sees 6 holes in it, with a red button that sprays blood. Oh, he got y'all. Oh, he got... hold on, where he get that from? Cause Captain Crunch stands up. Then he sees Peter's hanky on the ground. What the hell what is that? The captain stands back up and Peter swipes an axe on his back, making the captain stumble forward, knock into a cart which hits a light, then ripping a metal sharp art piece that blocks the door. Anne gets out the car about to head back in, but she's locked out. As Peter gears up to sprint towards her and take this final girl, by default, out, the way that Anne pushed the door open causes one of the art piece's sharp objects to fly off its fixture and stab Peter through the stomach and dart right into a wood wall. God damn it, this film is so much fun. I have a soft spot for Giallos, although I will admit I don't watch them as nearly as I would like to. And of course, you know, when that term is brought up, the master of them all, Mr. Argento, is brought up. The ongoing debate on whether art in the media influences people to commit crimes or not will always fascinate me, because at your big old age, I don't want any grown grown-ass adult blaming a song or a film or a book for doing harm to anyone else. But what I will say though is, I think when it comes to children, that's where everything starts getting yellow, because their brains are not fully developed and what they see can influence a lot of their actions. But with that, how about these parents just buckle down with restrictions? Monitor what your kids are allowed to be exposed to. I absolutely believe the elites and the 1% who are running the world are intentionally corrupting the youth with the slop that they push through these celebrities to then push onto the kids, but I don't want to go into all that. That's another video. Of the few Argento films I can recall, Tenebrae seems to be one of, if not his most perverse, if I may say so. The film obsesses over the act of spying, looking. There's always an eye on these women, on Peter. The camera slides around corners, and honestly, every victim is posed as both spectacle and warning. It's self-aware horror, exposing the rot in both pulp crime novels and in the audience that devours them. It's odd because Argento makes the violence almost erotic at times, but of course it's with intent. There are lots of spectators of slasher films who have compared a knife penetrating the skin to the act of intimacy, and that speaks on the trope and themes of sex and virginity that horror toys around with. The kills aren't only shocking in this film, they're beautiful, and I use that loosely, but it makes us complicit, right? We lean into the aesthetic of it all and feel gross for enjoying it. I do also think the victims as well as the killers are reflecting anxieties around not only perversion as the story leans into, but queerness as well, which it only makes more sense with how the strange, peculiar weirdos and queers cling to this genre, because it's comforting. I found out upon research that the woman in the red shoes in all of Peter's flashbacks is played by a transgender actress, which makes you wonder, even if the film doesn't clarify it or lean into it, could that have played into some of the hostility that Peter felt towards her? Or maybe, I don't know, maybe that's just my head canon just making shit up, but that would have been a little interesting. Now, Mr. Dario, he is very, very aware of the critiques, the cries of misogyny, the endless cycle of bodies and blades, but instead of dodging, he doubles down, making a film that's almost indulgent. Peter Neal feels like Dario exercising his own demons about being a horror director accused of corrupting audiences. The comments from Tilda when bashing Peter about sexism, those are words that real critics have made to Dario about his work, and he intertwined it into the film's narrative. In 1980, Dario was harassed by an obsessed fan who telephoned him repeatedly, threatening him, and claimed that he wanted to ruin the man's life. So he used the experience to start writing a screenplay about celebrity stalkers, and that script turned into Tenebrae. This is an artist, guys, okay? I think it's freaking incredible how he amped up everything people have criticized him for, making it borderline slapstick. The kills get more elaborate and excessive, specifically with Jane's death. I mean, Quentin Tarantino called her axe death his favorite on-screen death of all time for its intense imagery, but no matter how melodramatic the film can get, gore is not the only driving force or lingering draw. It's the sensation that the horror here is recursive, feeding on itself, replaying its own tropes until the line between author, killer, and spectator dissolves. Tenebrae suggests that violence in art isn't just a reflection of culture, it's a hall of mirrors, with us caught somewhere inside, with crimson-colored blood on our hands. What do you think about Dario Argento's Tenebrae? Are there any Giallos, other Giallos that you have watched recently? Any that we should talk about? Because you know I'll do it, stop playing with me. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up, it helps me out a lot. Subscribe if I seem like your type of guy. And if you're feeling extra froggy, turn on that bell notification so you know whenever I post a new video. I know you want to. But in the meantime, my friends, take care of your mind, take care of your body, take care of your spirit.